From 4 teams down to 2, the Super Bowl is set, which means the end of another NFL season is looming. Here on episode 224 of the Kirby on Sports podcast, we will recap the Philadelphia Eagles win over the Washington Commanders in the NFC Championship game and the Chiefs win over the Buffalo Bills to send them back to another Super Bowl for a chance at history in doing what no team has done before, the three-peat. All that and so much more comes your way next on episode 224 of the Kirby on Sports podcast. Once again, welcoming you back to another edition of the Kirby on Sports podcast. I'm your host, Josh Kirby, and this is episode 224 of the Kirby on Sports podcast. So glad that you are with us. The football season is coming to a close, but not to worry, we will break it all down for you. As always, a huge thanks to all of our sponsors of the Kirby on Sports podcast: PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, Transformative Alignment Group, Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate, Barrett, Pest, and Termite Services, Mark Lynch with Guild Mortgage, Shenandoah Music, the Cider House, and the official energy drink of the Kirby on Sports podcast, Don't Sleep Energy. Use promo code KOS Podcast for 12% off your order every single time. And not to waste any more time, it was a fun weekend for Carlos. Not so fun for me, but we'll get into it as we welcome in the reigning, defending, two-time Kirby on Sports PickEm champion, and his team is going back to the Super Bowl and the home of the Chiefs, Carlos Martinez.
God, that intro was way too long, and you did not have to add that part about the home of the Chiefs, because we're going to put this one right here. We're going to put this one right here. So these are my two belts. This is Sophia, and this is Betty. You guys remember them. I did retire them a little earlier in the season. These represent my two previous victories as your two-time Pick'em's champion. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've been carrying around another belt, but did not actually earn that one. But after last week, I am solely in first place. And just like the Kansas City Chiefs, I am officially one game away from three-peating and being your three-time Pick'em's champion. You can call me Carlos Three Belts. You can call me Daddy Gold if you want. I don't care what it is. Just make sure you call me champion. Kirby, you gave me a good run for my money here. It came down to the wire, but unfortunately you had to pick your team. And that's what ultimately got me the victory, baby. Now, I've not solidified this victory yet. We have this strange scenario that could happen next week where if you and Dan both make the same pick and pick against the Kansas City Chiefs and pick the Philadelphia Eagles, we could have a three-way tie in which we will have to implement our tie-breaking rule. But as of right now, I'm sitting pretty comfortable in first place, and we'll see what happens. Carlos Three Belts, baby. The Swiss Army knife just is dripping in gold, okay? It's all gold. Everything I touch is gold. I have the Midas touch, baby. Everything I touch turns into gold. You're welcome.
Well, that was that was very exciting. So if you win next week, we might have to call you Carlos Three Belts. So with that, obviously, we do want to clear the air on one thing. Dan is perfectly fine, but he will be on extended leave. Not sure when Dan will be making a return, but we wish him all the best. Dan is a member of the Kirby on Sports podcast family. Everything is fine with him. He is doing well, but again, we miss you,
He's
Dan.
on assignment out in Cali. Jeez, you keep like making this seem like it's something like drastic. Like he's working, he's out of town, and right now it is currently 3:30 in California, so he's currently still working, and he's not able to jump on the podcast. So we will see him soon, hopefully. But as of right now, he will not be part of the show until he comes back from Cali.
We are welcoming him with open arms when he returns. That is for sure. So, with that, Carlos, let's jump right in order of the games. The NFC
Two games,
Championship,
only 2 games to talk about this week.
only 2 games. The NFC Championship, which featured two NFC East teams, the Washington Commanders, the number 6 seed, and the number 2 seeded Philadelphia Eagles. And the moral of the story in this one was turnovers. Turnovers
Mhm.
shot the Commanders in the foot, and the Eagles capitalized on every single turnover that the Commanders had. Philly played a complete perfect game for the most part, and they looked very strong as they ended up victors, putting up 55 points and winning the George Hallis Trophy to claim the NFC Championship. Again, nobody would have thought the Commanders would have made it to this spot, but they did. And a lot of hope for the future for the Washington Commanders and their fan base as well. But the Eagles, all around a complete game, defensively managed to limit Washington and what they could do. Jaden Daniels had a decent game, 1 touchdown and 1 interception, but just trailing from behind. And Saquon Barkley had a couple touches, a couple touchdowns as well. And the Eagles were just the better team, the hot hand in this game, if you will, and they wanted this more, and they're on their way to another Super Bowl. And this franchise is hungry for more than just one Lombardi trophy in their franchise history.
Yeah, but they're not going to get it. So so yeah, I mean, you're correct. I mean, turnovers were the name of the game here, and on top of that, just this defense finally came up against the buzzsaw in Saquon Barkley that they couldn't stop. I mean, he scores on the first offensive play from the Philadelphia Eagles. Awful tackling. I mean, who was it? Was it Deron Payne who was like considered out
He
earlier
was
this
out
week?
with the finger injury, fractured finger, and a foot injury, or a knee injury.
Yeah, once he was like declared out, like it was kind of clear at that point that that you guys were going to probably struggle stopping the run because he's your biggest run stopper. Um and then not having Cosme on the offensive line really hurt as well for you guys. So I mean, all in all, it was a good season for you guys. Like there's nothing to be ashamed of. You guys just came up against a team that has experience in this position and understood the assignment, I guess you could say. I mean, it's crazy to think that 2 years ago we were in this kind of same exact position in terms of like Philly was hosting the NFC Championship game and Kansas City was hosting the AFC Championship game. We did a watch along at your house, you, me, and Dan, and it kind of went the same way. The Philly game was a blowout and it was boring and just like kind of like, okay, can this end already? Like, let's get to the main event here at this point because the game just wasn't competitive. And then the night game was just outstanding, between Cincinnati and Kansas City that time, and then this time between Buffalo and Kansas City. So with all that being said, it's just the Eagles they're really talented. They have a lot of talent around this whole entire squad, and Jalen Hurts looked great. Saquon looked phenomenal, and ultimately, it was what we always said about the Commanders this season is that defense. Really, there's a lot of problems with that defense. After, like, once you get past that defensive line, the linebackers are, Wagner's old, so like he's only got so much left in him. And then that secondary, while it did get better with Marshawn Lattimore, it still has a lot of issues. And then, and again, then we go to the turnovers. The turnovers were just a huge, huge issue. Eckler fumbling was big. I can't remember who else turned the ball over at this point.
McNichols fumbled off the kickoff return. Diami Brown fumbled.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Brown that one was like, oh man, he was having such a great playoffs too. That sucks.
I know.
So yeah, I mean, ultimately, for you, this is more specifically for you, Kirby. And I told you this in the group chat. Like, nobody had you guys here. Nobody had you guys coming to the NFC Championship game at this point. I understand it's a disappointing loss because, just the way it happened, a blowout, a 55-23, game. But at the end of the day, like you said, you said it too. There's a lot to look forward to because there's a good, strong core in that building now. You have Dan Quinn, you have Jaden Daniels. You said it. There's no question as to who the quarterback's going to be next year. There's no questions as to who's the coach going to be. There's certain guys that you want to try to keep. You want to try to keep Zach Ertz, and make sure that he comes
retiring.
back.
He said that today.
He's retiring.
Yeah, he said he ain't retiring. He said that today.
Oh, okay. So then, but now the question is can they keep him, or is somebody else going to offer him some more money?
They have a lot of money to work with too. It's not like this franchise is broke right now.
I mean, you're not wrong, but we'll, at the same time, it's a question of can they get the deals done to get these players to come out. I mean, you're still dealing with people having to play in FedEx. I mean, I'm sorry, Northwest Stadium. So it's it's not the most lucrative place to come play for yet in terms of like location and facilities and everything. But in terms of just like upside and fanfare, I mean, DC seems like it's finally starting to come back. So I say this to all Commanders fans: keep your head high. And hey, guess what? You guys made it to a freaking NFC Championship before Dallas did. So there you go.
You're right though, Carlos. Lattimore's terrible, man. I don't know what it is.
Said he was terrible. Whoa. He had a bad game against Philly, but I never said he was terrible. I just said he wasn't as great as everybody thought he was going to be.
And you're right.
He's not the same elite corner that he was a few years back. He's not terrible. Did he have a bad game against Philly? Yes, 100%. But let's pump the brakes. I did not say he was terrible.
Well, yeah, I mean, just the penalties there. People were complaining about missed calls, but I mean, when it's a 55-23 loss, you can't really blame officiating. But
there were some questionable calls in this game, and that's why I'm just like, okay, well then let's get off of Kansas City's back here. Okay, we'll get to that later.
Who would have thought that there would have been a position where an official almost awarded points for jumping off sides too many times?
I mean, that was crazy. That one was crazy. But I mean, it's a rule. It's just rarely enforced.
Yeah, and Wagner was like, he was trying to point out that Philly was lined up illegally, but they didn't really watch that. So Louvu just kept.
They're always lined up illegally when they do the push. They're always lined up illegally. They're always offsides. They're not going to ban it.
But Philly runs it so well.
They run it so well, but not every other team does.
Yeah, Buffalo doesn't. Buffalo doesn't.
We'll talk about them later, but let's focus on this game for now.
But I mean, there's a lot of hope moving forward. It just sucks that the Commanders didn't get it done, but it was very nice to see on the television set that Adam Peters was down there and the ownership shook every player's hand. congratulated them on a good season because it was a good
Isn't it?
season.
Hold on, but isn't it hilarious that you know, um, because your owner, what's your owner's name again? I can't. It's escaping me.
Josh Harris.
Yeah, Josh Harris. Josh Harris is owner of the 76ers. He
And
owns
the
the Commanders,
76ers
and you guys,
are bad
well, but like he owns the 76ers. You guys go to the NFC Championship game, and it's in Philadelphia, literally across the street from the building his basketball team plays in.
yeah, that is pretty funny.
That's hilarious to
I
me.
don't really
It's just
think
almost like fate. And hey, the beautiful thing is Dan Snyder absolutely hates this, hates that you guys are succeeding. So that means you guys are doing good.
Did
If
you
Dan
read that
Snyder hates it,
article?
I didn't read the whole article. I read the headline and I heard a little bit about it, but yeah, I look, if Dan Snyder hates it, then you know what? I say continue doing what you're doing because you're doing it right.
Because apparently Joe Gibbs was still talking to Snyder, and Gibbs is like, Snyder, just give it up. Give it up. Because he was about to back out of sale according to that
Yeah,
ESPN.
I saw that he was thinking about
But
backing out of it,
why would
and
you back
then
out? I mean,
because because he's a narcissistic scumbag, man. Like, why would I mean? He thinks that he was forced to sell the team, which was because he was just a terrible owner, and he hates the fact that it turns out he was the problem. He was the reason why. And this is a realization that Jerry Jones needs to come to, is he was in the way of the team's success. Now, he was in the way of the team's success because all he wanted was just the financial gain from it and to say, I'm an NFL owner, but he didn't actually want to invest any money in or do good business with people. And he wanted to screw people over. And it just didn't work for him. And, now you have an owner here who's who wants to succeed, who wants to bring the passion back to to this fan base that used to be one of the most rabid fan bases in the NFL, until Dan Snyder came along and completely killed it with everything that he did. And he hates seeing that this team is already succeeding without him. So, yeah.
yeah, it's just great to see the Commanders under new ownership, new leadership, and it's really refreshing because
We need a
looking
rebrand, though. We still need a rebrand in terms of like, the Commander's name is fine. It's just we need a jersey redesign. We need a logo redesign. It needs some touching up, because honestly, that's the one thing I really hate about the Commanders is just their whole presentation. It's just not iconic. It's just not memorable the way their old presentation used to be.
yeah, what was it? Speaking of the Commander's name, remember when the Today Show did that big reveal and you were like backstage helping me run it, and how they botched the reveal and everything? I was like, oh my gosh, just
They botched
back
the
to the,
reveal, and then it was just so underwhelming because, like, literally, I'm looking at the logo right now, and the logo is because they were just coming fresh off of the Washington football team, and then all they did was just add some lines into the W, and I was like, this is the laziest thing I've ever seen. I was like,
I
there's
know.
nothing like memorable about this. I told you that before, and then I was like, I'm not a fan of the jerseys. The black jerseys are tough, but the home jerseys it's a weird color. Like it's not the same maroon as what it used to be. And just, I don't know, man, the old look was just so iconic, and it was just like, okay, we should try to get back to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, maybe it was rushed because of the circumstances. They had to quickly change the name to the
They
football
had
team.
like 2 years
Yeah, but
to figure that.
still,
It does not take. Do you know how fast I made it? So I've showed you my team builder stuff that I do for the college football game. It does not take me that long to think of a design, man. So for them to sit there and think that it takes more than 2 years to figure this out, no, it's just they made it more complicated than what it actually is. the names were there, the ideas were there, the inspiration was there, and they just completely went away from that and let these. I don't even know. I don't even know who designed these. I don't know what, but it was terrible. But we're totally off topic about this game.
Yeah, but going back to the game, I did like the Tressway fake punt in the first half of that game.
The most obvious fake punt, and somehow Philly didn't see it coming.
Yeah, but that was history because that was the first time in an NFC Championship game where neither team punted in the first half. So that
Yep.
was pretty cool to see. And what else? Um, I mean, I think Jaden Daniels played all right. I think he got a little bit rattled, but I mean, I don't think anything was on him because he had some good throws at times, and I just think the Eagles defense played that much better, but I don't think this loss falls on Jaden as much as the fumbles, the turnovers, obviously, but I think he stayed calm, cool, and collected. But after the game, he was pissed. You
Yeah, I
could
mean,
tell.
you're gonna be
I
mad.
mean,
I mean, you get to this point. I mean, you're not guaranteed to come back here. I mean, we saw it. I mean, like Detroit this season. I mean, Detroit gets the NFC Championship game. Everybody thinks they're gonna make it to the Super Bowl. They get bounced in the divisional round. You're not guaranteed to get back to this point. So it's like if it was kind of like what you said last week. When you made your pick, why not us? Like, so that was the case. Is why couldn't we do this? And we've beaten this team before. Great. And again, what happened was it was just silly mistakes and just turnovers and penalties and just I don't know, man. I can understand why Jaden would be frustrated because at the end of the day, it's like, hey, like we kind of wasted a golden opportunity here. Next year we're gonna have a tougher schedule. I mean, they got to come to Kansas City. That's gonna be fun. But I don't know. Like you said, there's a lot. You guys will have a lot of cap space. You guys will have a huge opportunity to really try to improve this team. Dan Quinn year 2, where he's going to get more of his type of guys into this team and really, hopefully continue building that culture there. So I understand why Jaden would be upset and frustrated. That's a good thing. That hopefully will motivate him through the offseason to get better. He had a fantastic rookie year. There's nothing to be like ashamed about. I mean, he got to the NFC Championship game. It's just hard for a rookie to go all the way to the Super Bowl. I mean, there's a reason why no rookie's ever done it. So, yeah, I mean, I think the future is bright in Washington. So we'll see what happens if they stay on the right track.
yeah, the future is bright. That's for sure. I mean, just again, this team. Just watching the interviews, they were upset, deflated, rightfully so. But again, there's that optimism, the ownership shaking everybody's hand, greeting every player, talking to them. Adam Peters on the sideline shaking everybody's hand as well. That goes to show you that this front office really cares about the players on the team, on this Commanders team, and that's going to be a difference maker. And I really do think this offseason is going to be one to look out for the Washington Commanders. I'm not sure big splash moves or anything like that, but they have money to work with to improve this team even more. What Dan Campbell, the head coach of the Detroit Lions, said after their loss to San Francisco, it's going to be twice as harder for this Commanders team to get back because the strength of schedule is tougher. People have a number on what you're trying to run, stuff like that. But the play style changes from year to year. But still, it's going to be twice as harder for the Washington Commanders to get back to this spot or farther because of what they went through this year. And that's going to be the telling factor. will this team be resilient enough to overcome even harder battles, tougher teams to make it as far, if not farther, maybe even to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, no, I mean, I got nothing else to add.
Yeah, I think I pretty much said my piece, but um, I saw videos after the game, Eagles fans harassing Commanders fans per usual.
Surprise,
Not a-
surprise.
Yeah, par for the
Classless in
course.
defeat, classless in victory. That's how they go. And that's why I think America's going to have a really hard choice in the Super Bowl, because it's like, are you guys really going to bank on the Eagles? It's going to be a case of people are just going to be like, we hope the meteor hits the stadium. But
Mhm. Yeah,
for me, I have my vested interest. But yeah,
absolutely.
classic Eagles.
I know. And I got to give credit. Nick Foles giving the NFC Championship trophy. I'm like that because what he did, the Philly special, so on and so forth. And you look at nowadays, Nick Foles is retired and Doug Peterson is out of a job, and it's like the NFL from back then to now, how stuff has changed. It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just crazy to see. But before we get a break, just an off-topic note. In case we haven't informed you all, Pete Carroll to the Raiders, Liam Cohen to the Jaguars, Aaron Glenn to the Jets. I think we touched on Glenn, but one more head coaching spot remains, and that is in New Orleans. Just, do you have any thoughts on the new head coach hiring so far?
Yeah, Dallas is an idiotic franchise, and that's why I'm not a fan of them anymore.
Did you hear what Schottenheimer said today?
I don't care. I do not care. I did not watch a single second of that press conference. I don't care what Jerry has to try to snake sale me. I don't care what Schottenheimer has to say. That franchise is an absolute dumpster fire, and Jerry's got to go.
Yeah. I
That
mean,
team will never succeed so long as Jerry Jones is alive.
he straight up said we're going to win a championship on the first day.
Okay. He's been saying that for the last 30 years.
No, Brian Schottenheimer said that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you're going to win one. Okay.
Yeah, but Liam Cohen, I did hear some of his press conference. He's a very energetic guy. Let's just say that. If you haven't
Yeah, he
gone back
ghosted
and
the
watched,
Bucks.
huh?
He
Oh yeah,
ghosted the Bucks.
can you believe that?
I don't know, man.
That's just crazy. But in Aaron Glenn to the Jets, he used to play for the Jets, so that's going to be, excuse me, very interesting to see what he can do with a new GM in Aaron Glenn. And also Robert Saleh back in San Francisco.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting for sure. We saw how good his defenses were in New York, and then how good his defenses were his first go around with San Francisco. So, good hire, in my opinion. And I think the biggest acquisition is nobody took Steve Spagnuolo from the Chiefs, baby.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Absolutely there. But we will take a break. And when we return, we will talk about the Chiefs and the Bills, a rivalry renewed. For sports fans living in condominium and homeowners associations, as well as business professionals, when you need a reserve study, PM Plus Reserves has been in business since 1990. Their studies are accurate and easy to understand. Check them out when your association needs a study. www.pmplusreserves.com. You can also contact them at 703-803-8436. Once again, www.pmplusreserves.com. Is it finally time to upgrade your home's interior? How about with an authentic farm table made locally from recycled barnwood? Shenandoah Primitives, based right here in Winchester, Virginia, makes farm tables, benches, tables, coffee tables, and a long list of other items for your home decorating needs. At Shenandoah Primitives, function and style are combined for great furniture that will last generations. If you're interested in combining the industrial look of metal with wood, or considering something incredibly unique with a live edge, Shenandoah Primitives turns those ideas into reality. Thinking about a mirror, wine rack, or other accent piece for your home, Shenandoah Primitives can assist with that as well. As a local small business, Shenandoah Primitives is happy to work with each client for a custom design or schedule an appointment to come out and view current inventory. Local, high-quality, handmade items can be found at Shenandoah Primitives. Find us on Facebook and Instagram or visit us at www.shenandoahprimitives.com.
Winning sports teams thrive on alignment. Every player knows their role, trusts their teammates, and works toward one shared goal, winning. But let me ask you, what about your senior leadership team? Are they driving your business toward success? At Transformative Alignment Group, we help CEOs uncover and address the hidden drain on productivity caused by disengaged employees that cost companies millions annually. Transform your team. Transform your results. Visit tagalignment.com today. Don't settle for good when you can be amazing. That's tagalignment.com.
Hey there, Kirby on Sports Podcast fans. Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate here for you. Remember, if you have any real estate needs, buying or selling, I'm your guy. I would love to help you out. And you can also find me on my own personal podcast, Iconic Talk, where you get a chance to learn about the local real estate market and why Winchester is an amazing place to live. Reach out to me anytime, 540-247-1527, and find Iconic Talk anywhere you get your podcasts.
And we welcome you back to the Kirby on Sports Podcast, episode 224. I'm your host, Josh Kirby, and right beside me, Carlos, the Swiss Army knife, Martinez. We talked about the NFC Championship game. Now it's time to talk about the AFC Championship game.
The main event. No, Kirby. We don't do that anymore. We haven't done that all year, and we're not going to do it now.
I was looking forward to it.
No. Yeah, the main event, if you will.
It's a rivalry renewed, if you will. The Bills and the Chiefs. Could Josh Allen and the Bills finally knock off the Chiefs when it mattered the most? No. Are people complaining about officiating? Yes. I'll let you touch on that, Carlos. But, I mean,
dumbest argument of all time.
I know, but still. Where was I? The Chiefs put the ball on the ground too many times. I feel like if the Chiefs didn't
only did it once. We only did it once.
Oh no, I'm sorry. They fumbled the ball and recovered it. They fumbled it once and lost it. I'm sorry.
No, we fumbled the ball and then there was a penalty, and then so it negated anything that happened with that fumble, and then we fumbled it again on a botched RPO.
Yeah. So anyways, so that point's invalid, but I mean, I think the Chiefs played pretty good. Xavier Worthy, he looked good for a touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster had 60 yards. Receivers were getting involved. Kelsey was getting involved a little. Patrick Mahomes rushing for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, they were looking pretty good, man.
Yeah, this was opening night of the season for us. Because honestly, the regular season, this was the first time, I think collectively, from everything that I've heard from Chiefs fans, this is the first time we truly felt alive in a football game, because, the regular season felt like a formality. It was like, oh, okay, sure, exciting game, close game or whatever. But it was like, we know that we're just going through the paces. We're not seeing this team unload the unload the chamber, at all, because they're waiting for the playoffs. And then, we locked in the number 1 seed. And then we know that in the divisional round, we were going to play the Texans, and we didn't need to pull out all the stops against the Texans. So we played a very toned down game plan, a very simple game plan that was just get the ball out of Mahomes' hands quickly and, try to, get out as healthy as possible, because we knew that when it really was going to matter was the AFC Championship game, because we knew we were going to face either Buffalo or Baltimore. And that's when the season actually mattered. It didn't matter in those 2 matchups during the regular season, because at the end of the day, okay, it was a loss. Who cares? We know what matters is the playoffs. So this was the game where I legitimately had no idea what was going to happen. And I was very nervous leading up to the game. I was very nervous watching the game. There were plenty of, this was the first time this year it felt like I had a roller coaster of emotions that I felt like I haven't had since the Super Bowl last year against the 49ers. It was a great game, man. It was, is it the best game of this rivalry? No, I will still contend 13 seconds will always be the most iconic moment between Mahomes and Allen. But this was the first time that it was like an outright win for one of these two, because when you go back, okay, last year, what happened? It was wide right. The game tying kick for the Buffalo Bills, at home last year. It was wide right in the divisional round. The year before that, or the time before that, it was the 13-second game. Well, that's not true. I guess you could say their first go around in the AFC Championship game in 2021 was probably their was probably the first outright win, but that was like a young Josh Allen, a young Buffalo Bills who hadn't been there yet. This wasn't like Josh Allen like now today. Whereas now it's like, okay, like, this is Josh Allen at the peak of his powers. Maybe. I mean, he might have another level to him. He's going to need another level if he ever wants to get past us, because Josh Allen played phenomenal. He played great. He was terrifying. He's always terrifying. Buffalo, that's why I hate Buffalo so much, because they play us so well. It's never easy against them. Josh Allen just always finds a way, and it's so annoying how he just stays in the game. And then you're just like holding on for dear life at the end, hoping that your defense, can stop him. And luckily our defense was able to, dial up the right blitz at the right time. But yeah, I mean, just this is what a championship game, this is what a playoff game should look like. It shouldn't be a blowout like it was with your guys' game. It should be it should be a competitive game going all the way down. And then finally somebody has to be like, no, this is mine. And the Chiefs are chasing something bigger than what Buffalo was chasing. The Chiefs are chasing history. Buffalo is chasing history as well in terms of their first, Super Bowl, and for whenever. But like the Chiefs are chasing the three-peat, something no team has accomplished. So their purpose is bigger, I feel. And that's what got them through this game. I mean, yeah, it was just I don't know. It's a game that I will remember for a long time, because it was a great game. It wasn't as iconic per se, like I said, like as the 13-second game, but this one was just it was just a masterclass, man, by both quarterbacks, and I love it.
I'm gonna go on the side of the Bills for a second and talk about, if I was a Bills fan, how crushed my heart would be right now. Because how many times have they done this and they lose? It's just
4.
crazy. I mean, the fan base is probably just bashing their heads in right now.
Well, that's why they're also pushing the whole thing of, oh, the refs screwed us. We were never gonna beat the Chiefs and the Reds. It's like, guys, you guys didn't even beat us last year, and last year we had a 10 times worse team. We were at your house, and you guys still didn't do enough to beat us. So at the end of the day, it's just you guys just aren't good enough to beat us. And in any other era, Josh Allen would be the best quarterback there ever was. But unfortunately, he is in the era of Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's just not, he just can't get it done. That's not to say he never will, right? My theory is that next year, it very well could be the Bills' year, because I do not foresee the Kansas. There's just no possible way with all these games Kansas City's had to play, going for this three-peat, that they're going to somehow do it 4 times in a row. I just can't see it happening. I'm going to
clip this if they end up in the Super Bowl next year.
I mean, if they do, they do. Like, am I going to be upset? No. But I just think that this is what happens to dynasties. There's always a down year. And a down year for us is not necessarily like, oh, we missed the playoffs. It could be we just don't make it to this. We lose in the championship game. It could be we get to the Super Bowl and we don't win the Super Bowl, you know. But I just find it really hard to believe that, like, you know, the Bills are gonna that the Bills are going to eventually get one. Like, they're going to beat us eventually in the playoffs. But right now, it's just our time. And like, my heart does go out to Buffalo fans, because it's just like, man, again. But I think this is the problem with the way that the NFL scheduled things now, because when you really think about it, Buffalo kind of messes it up, because we always play each other in the regular season, and we see in the regular season they got our number. They always beat us in the regular season. But I think the problem is because of how emotional these playoff games are and how devastating of losses they are, the Bills go into those regular season games all hyped up and wanting to prove a point. But in doing so, they kind of always show their hand too much, whereas Kansas City does not, right? So they always throw their best stuff at us to try to prove a point. And then when we get to the playoff game, we've seen your best. We didn't show you anything. Think about it. In the regular season game earlier this year, Patrick Mahomes didn't run once. He did not have any QB designed runs, nothing. He had multiple in this game. Buffalo was not ready for it. You saw it, because every time Patrick took off to run, he had nothing but space in front of him, because guys just had their back to him, because they weren't expecting a QB run from Patrick Mahomes, of all people. So to me, it's a case of, and you know, we're going to play them again in the regular season next year. And it's a case of they might want to start adopting our philosophy of, hey, we're not going to show you anything in this matchup, because ultimately this one doesn't matter. It's the one in the playoffs that matters. And you're showing us all your good stuff, and we're showing you nothing. And then we didn't show anything until we didn't even, this was the first game. It felt like we actually like pulled out the like good plays in this game. That Buffalo defense couldn't stop us. And yeah, man, I think it is heartbreaking for Buffalo. You know, that city feels a little cursed right now. But at the end of the day, it's to our benefit. So that's the good thing. Yeah, Kansas City by 1 million, baby. Let's go.
And I don't really want to beat the bush here too much, but everybody who's talked about the calls and stuff, what did you see?
I mean, I saw what I thought was an evenly officiated game. There was a lot of missed calls from Buffalo that didn't call. There was a lot of, yeah, sure. Were some of these calls questionable? Did I think Josh Allen got that first down on that 4th down run? Personally, yes. I thought that there was enough evidence to show that he got that first down. But the referee said no. And I understand why the referee said no, because there was not conclusive evidence that the ball did cross. Everybody's showing screenshots and everything, but I'm like, where is the ball? Can you see the ball? No camera shot shows the ball. And then on top of that, certain camera angles, it's going to look like he crosses the line, but he doesn't cross the line. So I don't know. Me personally, I say he did. But I understand the refs being like, no, he did not. We don't see it. The Xavier Worthy catch, I mean, ultimately did it. I mean, I don't know. That one is it's also a thing of like, I don't know what a catch is anymore. Like, I don't. But by the letter of the rule, or letter of the law, if you want to, the ball can touch the ground so long as it doesn't move, so long as the receiver has control of it. The ball touches the ground and it doesn't bobble. So it was under control. And ultimately, it was a 50-50 ball. And Xavier Worthy came up with it. And, I mean, it was going to be a first down either way because there was the penalty. So it was just going to be either from the 5 or the 20. And I understand that's a big difference per se. But at that point, the Chiefs were rolling, and it didn't really necessarily make a difference. This whole narrative that the internet has latched onto, and that some of the pundits have latched onto, of Kansas City gets all the calls, it must be rigged. You know, you have to play it's big loser energy, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, your team was just not good enough to win. If you we saw the Bills can beat the Chiefs. They beat us already this season. They are the only team to legitimately have beat the Chiefs, because that Denver loss was against the backups. And to me, it's just like it's just a jealousy thing, man. It's just, you're jealous that your team is not succeeding the same way that the Kansas City Chiefs are. And I understand it, because I remember how I felt about the New England Patriots when they were dominating the league. We all despised them. We were like, dude, they get all the calls. No matter what, they just pull it through. So I understand where it's coming from, okay? But at the same time, you have to understand that, like, you are taking away from something that is just like, you're trying to take away from something that is absolutely incredible. Like, we've never seen anything as great as what Kansas City's doing. Like, yeah, the New England thing was great, but like, they had cheating scandals. They had, they weren't like a family-friendly team the way the Kansas City Chiefs are. Like, and yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just over this whole thing about the referees and everything. I'm just like, guys, like, it's just so overdone. And it's just like, every conversation I have with a person, everybody tries to bring up the refs. And then I always have to bring up my points of like, no, like, it's just not true. You're just seeing all this propaganda, basically, of, the referees are on the Chiefs side. And the only reason why is because the Chiefs are in prime time so much. The Chiefs are in front of the people's conscience, because we have, because of like Taylor and Travis, or just because of how successful this team is, that like, yeah, you're going to notice all the mistakes, but it's a league-wide problem with the officiating. It's not just the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, again, last week in Baltimore, there was like that egregious pass interference call, and it was, and nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about it because guess what? It didn't involve Kansas City. So it's like, if you're gonna bash on the officiating that happens in the Kansas City games, keep that same energy with every game, because it happened in the last round and nobody talked about it. So I rest my case.
Yeah, I agree with what you say. I'm glad you were. I'm glad I was able to get your voice on that side of things. But I'm telling you, the Chiefs are back. They were celebrating. Travis Kelce was hype. Andy Reid, how about those Chiefs? And it's going to be fun to see this Super Bowl. That's for sure.
Yeah, I absolutely lost my mind when P. Ryan got that first down. I was like, oh my God, we're going back to the Super Bowl. We're going back. And yeah, it's historic, dude. Like, it's just crazy that like they're going for a three-peat, and then on the pick'ems, I'm going for a three-peat, and it's just like working out perfectly again. So yeah, it's going to be a fun Super Bowl. It was fun. It was fun 2 years ago. Was this the matchup I wanted? No, I did want a different matchup. I just want, I just wanted the history of this to be like, oh, they beat the Eagles, they beat the 49ers, and then they beat somebody else. Now it's going to be like they beat the Eagles twice and they beat the 49ers. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see how this goes, man. We got 2 weeks before we have to really, really break that game down. So Yeah.
Absolutely. We're gonna break that down on our Super Bowl pregame show. Obviously, that is coming up in 2 weeks. But until then, we are going to take one more break, and we will give you the current Kirby on Sports Pick'em standings as it stands right now. One more game left to play for the Pick'em's championship. We'll be right back.
Bedbugs. The only thing creepier than thinking about them is actually having them. Trust me, you don't want to have them. Locally owned and operated Barrett Pest and Termite Services can keep you from having bedbug nightmares and infestations. Call 540-340-3922 to schedule your free inspection and consultation. If bedbugs are already in your home, we'll get rid of them so you can rest easy. We also specialize in keeping homes and businesses free of other pests, including rodents and termites. That's Barrett Pest and Termite Services, 540-340-3922.
It's Jason, General Manager at Shenandoah Music, here to tell you all about...
Jay, what are you doing here?
Well, Matt, I'm trying to tell the people about our selection of guitars, basses, keyboards, drum sets.
I know that, but I always do the radio spots.
You get to have all the fun. I want to tell everyone about our huge selection, unbeatable prices, unmatched service, and in-depth knowledge.
Jay, I really don't think now is the time to discuss.
So remember, folks, when you think music, think Shenandoah Music in Winchester.
That's my line.
The Cider House is now open on East Piccadilly Street in downtown Winchester. The Cider House is open starting at noon Wednesday to Sunday. Stop in for a wide variety of ciders on draft, as well as 4 Virginia beers, wine, and ready-to-drink canned cocktails. Don't miss our lunch specials featuring our house salad. We also have dinner specials too. Stop in today at the Cider House, located on Piccadilly Street in downtown Winchester.
We welcome you back to episode 224 of the Kirby on Sports podcast. We talked about the NFC Championship game. We talked about the AFC Championship game. It's now time to talk about where the Pick'em stand with one game left to play.
All right, as you can see, there are no picks on the board because we will not be making our Super Bowl picks until the live pregame show. Dan, of course, will still be a part of it. He will still send me his pick when he is ready. But as things currently stand, very interesting. Unfortunately, Kirby's Commanders did not pull through, so he has fallen back into a second place tie with Dan. And I have pulled ahead by one game. As I broke it in the beginning, I am now in prime position to complete my own three-peat and officially earn this beautiful gold belt as I drop it. We will name her at some point, but right now she is nameless because she has not been earned, whereas Sophia and Betty have been earned. Sorry, adjusting everything here. But yes, so yes, I'm currently in first place at 82 and 38. Dan and Kirby are tied at 81 and 39. Any tiebreakers that happen after the Super Bowl should two people pick the same team, and then therefore, they end up tied. We will address that on the next episode of the podcast after the Super Bowl. But yeah, possible scenarios here. I went outright. My pick isn't, anything a surprise. We all know I'm going with the Chiefs. I have to. I'm contractually obligated to. It'll be interesting to see who Kirby and Dan both pick. But basically, I can't lose. I can tie, and then the only way I can lose is if we lose on the tiebreakers, formula that I have concocted. But there's also a scenario where I say I pick the Chiefs and both Kirby and Dan pick the Eagles and the Eagles win. And then it's a 3-way tie. And then we're going to have to go to a tiebreaker to figure out who's the winners. So there's still a lot to play for here, but basically I cannot come in last place. So there's that. Dan can still finish in last, and obviously Kirby can still finish in last. Kirby is the only one who's up for punishment because of his losing record, because of the fact that he is possibly going to lose 4 years in a row. You are still up for punishment. You still owe us the pancakes, and you will have to do it in a dress. And you are barred from picking next year should you come in last place. So all you have to do is come in second, dude. That's all you got to do. You come in second, you're scot-free. You still owe us the pancakes, but you don't owe us all that extra stuff. Okay? Dan, there is no punishment for Dan because he's been he's been in it every year. And of course, I'm up for another belt. So there's just no losing there. So yeah, those are pretty much the scenarios going into the pick'ems. But once again, as we always do every week, we do have to give Kirby a round of applause because he's been outstanding this year. He has really, 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 really turned it around. If you want to know how much he's turned it around, ladies and gentlemen, I will pull it up real quick on how he has turned this around. Let me pull it up here. Give me one moment. So, at this point last season, me and Dan were tied at 80 and 40 going into the Super Bowl. I'm 2 games to the better. Dan is 1 game to the better. Kirby was 68 and 52. I can't do the math in my head right now, but I believe that's a 13 game difference still. Yeah, 13. He has done extraordinary. So we do have to give him his flowers. He finally kept his word that he was going to do better, and he did better. And he stayed in this till the bitter end and had a legitimate shot at winning, and still has a legitimate shot at winning. You're not out of this yet. It's just it's you're gonna have to win on a tiebreaker. But you should be proud of yourself, man. You had yourself a good season picking this year.
Yeah, it's fun to do. It's pretty fun and made some good picks, some wise picks, no dumb picks. So,
Well, the Commanders definitely helped you this playoffs.
Well, I'm just trying to find out where that one pick I went wrong, because if I picked one more correct, what spot would I be at?
Yeah. It was the Commanders. Well, you were okay. Hold on.
No, but throughout the regular season,
I mean, there are plenty of picks. I mean, you got 39 wrong. I got 38 wrong. So there's plenty of picks that could have flipped that you could have gotten right. But at the end of the day, we're all within each other. So we all had the same formula basically on picking.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting, that's for sure. But the picks on our live pregame show. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, you guys will have to send that to me at some point. I mean, we're probably going to wait until...
It's going to be a little bit of a tough pick, so I got to try to figure it out.
Well, that's why it's not like I need it. I mean, we'll talk about when I'm going to need these picks, but obviously I'm going to need them before the pregame show.
Yeah. Yeah, so with that, that's how it stands. And getting you set for the Super Bowl pregame show on Super Bowl Sunday, the Chiefs and the
Eagles. I'm coming. The Chiefs are invading the home of the Eagles in Steven City. Police, we're on our way.
Oh man, I can't wait. We just have a short break, 2 more weeks, but then the season ends. And I'll be sad again.
And then we go to the dark ages. I can't believe the season's already almost over. This is nuts that we're already at the Super Bowl, because it doesn't feel like it was that long that we were, again, celebrating and, in the bunker with the Chiefs beating the 49ers. And here we are again already. Like, it just feels like the season flew by.
That is for sure. That is for sure. But with that, that concludes another edition of the Kirby on Sports podcast. I really don't want to end it because there's only one more left after this, and it's going to be sad. Back to the dark ages.
We have this weekend where there's no football, so we get a taste right now where there's the Pro Bowl is on, but nobody watches that.
Pro Bowl.
I mean, the beautiful thing is Saturday, I got the Royal Rumble, baby. So
Hey, there we go.
we're on the road to WrestleMania. But yeah, I'm not ready for football to go bye-bye.
So with that, just a big thanks to our sponsors as always, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, Transformative Alignment Group, Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate, Barrett, Pest and Termite Services, Mark Lynch with Guild Mortgage, Shenandoah Music, the Cider House, and the official energy drink of the Kirby on Sports podcast, Don't Sleep Energy. Use promo code KOS Podcast for 12% off your order every single time. Once again, for Josh Kirby, for Carlos Martinez, I am Josh Kirby.
All right, Kirby. All right, Kirby. And the home of the Chiefs.
Oh, man, that felt good. That felt really good, man. Hey, but a great honor and privilege to do this with you, buddy, and can't wait for Super Bowl Sunday.
Here we go. 3-peat inbound, baby. Let's go.
As always, check out the Kirby on Sports podcast on all social media platforms, all streaming platforms, and www.kirbyonsports.com. Always remember to create greatness. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. We say so long and peace out.